on the news about our soldiers going over to other countries fighting wars that we shouldn't even be fucking in, all of a sudden our kids are going to want to strap on assault rifles and go shoot a bunch of people. I mean, that's a fucking stupid thought process.
Well, well, it's a very it's not a solid thought process, and a lot of it is morality based. When it comes to people's religious beliefs, I believe that has a lot to do with it as well. Kind of the LDS culture is fairly conservative.
Do they not
So
have an
that's
age appropriate thing? I mean, like a kid shouldn't be in a bar being able to see a drink because a kid is not old enough to be in a bar.
Well, restaurants serve drinks.
No, I
well, so
understand
this is
restaurants serve
yeah,
drinks,
so
but they do it
restaurants.
in a bar or
No,
in a
they
prep
don't.
area. They don't
They
just
do it wherever.
they don't do it right in front of your table. It's not
Well,
like a
no.
sushi bar.
But if you're sitting at a table and the table next to you orders drinks, then kids see the drinks
Yeah,
and
so
immediately decide that they want to have a drink is the whole idea.
That's stupid.
It's
Yeah,
I'm
so
not saying it's
yeah,
logical.
that's a thought
I'm just saying
process.
it's you know, uh, and,
Yeah,
and that's
that
one of
is
the
their
problems
thought
is that
process.
we spend so much time taking to the extreme every condition that actually
Yeah.
probably never will happen, but it's good at getting votes.
We're too sensitive, man. We need to
No,
go back to
it
not
has to
being
do with votes.
pussies.
No, it has to do with getting votes.
Ugh.
People that are in power want to be reelected, and the only way to be reelected is to actually mollify their base. Okay, you and I couldn't get
Yeah.
elected in our district because we are not Republicans. Okay,
Which
we
is
are
really
not.
unfortunate, and they're losing out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's the way it is. Okay,
Exactly,
we are outnumbered.
But then
three to
but
one.
then people are bitching about the people that they've already elected to go back in the legislature after 6 years. It's like, no, shut the fuck up. You guys either elected them or boycotted the vote, which essentially elected these same
No,
people again.
That's irrelevant because we know the voter numbers and we know why people are not Democrats are not ever going to get elected in our district. We know that. Okay, the problem
we're
is
cute?
no. Well, you are, but that's a totally different idea. Okay, here we are going way off base, but along the lines of like with the ideology and the politics of it. Okay, people just don't seem to understand the idea that abortion is a symptom of a problem, and that problem has to do with lack
Oh,
of
absolutely.
it has to do with lack of proper education for scientifically based sex education. Because abstinence only, yeah, that works so well.
Yeah, because kids listen so well. You tell them not to do something, they're just naturally not going to do it.
But the problem
Yeah.
is
Well,
that
and they also have hormones.
hormones.
that.
Yeah, because that's controllable by the Bible. You know, the Bible controls hormones all the time, right?
Hand over fist.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
fist if you're... Never mind, I'm not going to go there. Okay. But anyway, so the whole idea is that with proper education, with scientifically based education on how to prevent unwanted pregnancies, will reduce abortion. Nobody wants to have that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
No,
it's-
because they don't want to have a conversation about sex. I mean, that's it's the uncomfort of wanting to have that discussion with your kids, or just you know, because there's this idea that it needs to be within a marriage. You have to save yourself for your husband or your wife. That it's something that is only sacred to this particular kind of setup of a relationship. Nobody wants to acknowledge that it exists outside of that. Nobody wants to acknowledge that it's okay to have outside those conditions. So a lot of the issues with abortion, they do not realize that the cause is not because women are flippant about their reproductive health and they say, well, I can go out and do this and I'll just have an abortion the next day, no problem. That's kind of how we're treated, as if we don't, that's how we use birth control. But if we actually were able to have access to not only the education, but, birth control, and that goes for men and women, we wouldn't need to have I mean, the need will always be there in one form or another, but they'll never, I mean, rates are going down substantially. I mean, the abortion rates nationally are the lowest they've ever been since Roe v. Wade was enacted. So, with more education, more access to birth control, we are eliminating the need to have, to keep having this constant battle of whether or not it should exist or not. I mean, it should always be available for instances where, rape and incest, where, if a woman is raped and she's, not on birth control for whatever reason, let's say she's, not sexually active, she doesn't need it for any reason, and that happens to her, and she ends up getting pregnant for it. She wasn't asking for it. She wasn't being irresponsible. And if that's a decision she chooses to make, then that should be absolutely available. Or, we have the issue of, when it comes to being a medical necessity, they don't realize that, because, the conversation has come up before about how we have these later term, the later term abortions after 20 weeks. They think, again, falsely, that these are situations in which a woman just kind of flippantly changes her mind halfway through and says, I don't want to do this. If they actually looked at the statistics and they actually consulted real physicians, they'd know that that's not the case at all. But, these are some of the most difficult decisions that a woman will ever have to make. But at the end of the day, the problem is that these are not any decisions that they need to be legislating or that they need to be even a part of. I do not need to consult with my lawmaker about what I do with my uterus. And that doesn't seem to connect in any way. So that's another thing I think we're fighting against, is just this idea that they need to be involved in that decision-making process.
They don't need to be involved in any social issues. If a guy wants to get a penile implant, he doesn't need permission from his fucking lawmakers to do it. He just does it, and he pays for it, and he gets it done.
Yeah.
But if a woman wants to do something, she has to. I mean, we're second-class citizens, and it's fucking bullshit. I mean, there's so many other problems the government should be working on. It should not even be an issue that's even up for discussion, period. There's homelessness, there's veterans, there's all kinds of stuff that needs to be dealt with, so leave us the fuck alone.
Yeah. Well, an interesting point that was brought up to me recently by somebody I know who is, very, very pro-life and very anti-abortion. So that conversation comes up of, okay, I know you feel this way, but why do you feel that you need to legislate that? Why do you feel that because you feel this way and yet you respect my individual autonomy, like why is this particular thing, why does that need to be a discussion that you're a part of or that you need to put into law to restrict me from? And the argument was made because by allowing it to happen, it's placing that burden upon me because, it comes from a morality, kind of like a moral religious perspective. They perceive it as human life. They perceive it as an individual being with a soul. They feel that allowing it to happen is actually a burden upon them in that sense, which I think is very not correct, but I think it explains a lot of why people feel the way they do when it comes to this particular discussion. I mean, it's almost like, they feel like our rights need to be, hampered down because it's somehow infringing upon their religious beliefs, if that makes sense. So it's another way of looking at it and of explaining why they feel the way they feel. And I obviously don't agree with it, but it kind of helps you understand that mindset a little bit better.
Yeah, it does. And one of the things here on Progressive Voices is we have no problems talking about sex. And the funny thing is that if people actually took a time to actually talk about sex in a logical fashion and actually, because like, for example, for me, I am, how old am I?
29.
I'm old, but I was given the sex talk by my mom when I was 13 years old. Okay? Mm-hmm. It was a very logical conversation about, condoms and birth control and same sex and this, that, and the
And
other.
respect women or I'll kick your ass.
Yeah, my mom would beat my ass. She was ex-Navy. But that's the thing is I was taught, and I had this discussion with my mom at a very early age, at the age of 13. And for some reason, it seems that people don't want to have that conversation anymore. People don't want to talk about the birds and the bees. They just don't have that. And that really should be something that's done at home. It shouldn't be really necessarily done.
It really should, yeah.
It shouldn't be done in the schools, okay? Sex education in the schools should be more about the actual biological type, how it works, how things happen, what kind of things. But the actual conversation needs to start at home. And I think the biggest problem is that because of our religious dogma, that they refuse to have that conversation at home, so that these kids go to school and their education at school in this field is abstinence only. At least here in Arizona, it's all about abstinence only. They were going to rip pages out of textbooks because they mentioned same-sex marriage or something like that.
Or condoms or some preventative shit.
So the problem is that we as a society have moved away from the idea that it is our parental responsibility to educate our kids. And that's where the disconnect is.
Yeah, well, oh, absolutely. Well, and when people are told that their mission in life is to, get married and have kids, I mean, they don't really stop and think about what that kind of responsibility entails. I mean, you bring another human being into this world. It is your job to make sure that they are, supported, loved, and they're educated, that you give them the tools necessary for them to live as productive life as they can. But that is not ever it never goes beyond the fact that that's what they need to do. It's not the responsibility and accountability for everything that happens after the fact. They just know that they're expected to A, get married, and then B, have babies, and then they're done. That's the goal. That's the expectation. Everything after that is just kind of up in the air. So there's just not.
I guess we fucked that one up, didn't we?
We sure did.
Because we haven't had any babies yet, and we've been married for 21 years almost. Yeah, our 21st anniversary is next week.
I know you guys.
So, and we have no kids. I have a son from a previous marriage, but we have no kids because we realized early on that we don't want to bring kids into this world.
Oh,
If they're anything like me, I don't even want to have that discussion.
Yeah, I can handle it. Don't worry.
Do you guys get the? Do you guys get the? But you guys are the ones that should be having kids. Do you get that one all the time? Because I know I do.
Oh yeah. You should be having kids, or your kids would be so awesome, or you don't know what you're missing until you have kids.
And it sounds like totally
really?
shitty, but it's people that already have kids. Oh, I love my kids. Well, I fucking hope so. You had them. Well, you should have kids. Why? So I can succumb to the misery that you're obviously having. I'm sorry. Well, I don't want kids.
We can't have kids, sweetie. I've been snipped.
Well, you are. Yeah. Well, of course,
I took
like
the responsibility early on in
want,
the early 2000s and said, "Okay, doc, snip. Let's make it done, so that we can't do that, because there's a responsibility aspect to it, financial."
And it's really interesting to me how you can get how easy is it for you to get snipped, because I know I've been begging my doctor for years to take my uterus out, and that discussion apparently is not something I can have with my doctor until I'm almost 40.
I can't have it because I've never had kids, and it fucking pisses me off.
Let me answer this question. Okay. I went in, I interviewed 5 minutes with a doctor. He snipped me, and I was done in less than half an hour.
And then you wanted ice cream.
And then I wanted ice cream. So, but that's the thing. I'm seriously. It was a 20 to 30 minute thing from beginning to end. I made the appointment. I went in. He said, "What do you want to do?" I said, I want a vasectomy. I want to be done. blah, blah, blah. He didn't ask if I had kids. He didn't ask if I wanted to have kids. He didn't ask anything.